Hi everybody, it's Lori from Shoo Shoo Paper Art, and I'm sharing this card that I made for the Paper Sweeties birthday hop, featuring this darling little giraffe from the Bouncing Baby stamp set. You can see a link at the information at the bottom of the video. I watercolored this little giraffe, and so I'll be talking about that. And I'm also going to be talking about this flat heart shaker element that turned out really cool. So first, let's talk about the background of the card. It is made with just a couple of pieces of cardstock offset from each other. This background one is about 5.5 by 4, and you can see that this one's slightly smaller. And then I die cut a piece so that you can see a little bit of the pattern paper underneath once I got finished. And that was cut with a Sizzix die. Then one last piece, which was actually cut with a Lifestyle Crafts frame, which I couldn't find a link to, so I may not be making it anymore, but anything would work. And then I sewed across the top, catching all the pieces so that nothing would be lost. So that is the background of the card. Now let's talk about that shaker. Okay, the shaker consists of a frame and 2 pieces of transparency cut in the same shape. The frame was made with Spellbinders dies, just simply ran through together with one heart inside the other. Then the transparencies are just the scallop frame all by themselves. All right, so I took the frame and put just a little bit of glue right along here to adhere them together. And I did the same thing with the second transparency. Just went ahead and glued it in place just a little bit so that it would be ready to be filled and I wouldn't lose my sequins. So once I had that side glued, I went ahead and filled it with the sequins. And then I also, to put inside, hole punched some cardstock with this smaller hole punch. I punched some mint green and pink and also poured it into the heart. After I had it all filled, then I took it to my sewing machine and sewed all the way around the heart, sealing in all of the sequins. I didn't yet adhere it to my card. I first cut several little flags and kind of glued them in place. Then I took all of that and again ran my sewing machine just right across all of it, including the flags. And that finished off the frame. One little trick: if you want some of your sequins to stay in place, which I did, the first one I did, I glued this little white one in place, and the first one I could see the glue, and I thought this is really silly. So a trick is to glue your pieces to the actual card back. Glue those sequins to the actual card back, and that way they look like they're in the shaker and they stay in place, and you'll get some right where you want them and not have to worry about glue showing on that transparency. Okay. So let's talk about this little cutie. He is stamped on 140-pound watercolor paper with antique linen distress ink. I thought this was kind of a nice color for, kind of soft for a giraffe or a baby card. So let me show you how he was watercolored. And I'm starting out with this off-white and then coming back in with a little bit of the golden yellow, and then I use a little bit of brown and this reddish brown for his horns. I hope I've zoomed in close enough so that you can see him really well. The process that I use is a lot like coloring with Copics. You think about where the shadows are going to be and the highlights. And I'm going to dip my brush in and get it wet and put it into that off-white paint. And I don't want it to be really wet, so I'm going to dry off my brush a little. And I should have gotten a paper towel. I'm really bad about just using my fingers. And I want there to be highlights in the middle and then maybe the light coming a little bit from this direction. So I'm going to lay in a little bit of color here on his rump and water and dry off just a little bit, and then blend that color that I laid in into his body. Then I'm going to go in and pick up a little bit more, and there'll probably be a shadow there. So I'll do the same process of laying in color and then blending it into his body, picking up more color and doing the same thing with the front leg. And I'm thinking that there'll be a shadow kind of under his chin and down the right side of his neck. And maybe he needs a little bit more there on that back leg there. Put in a little bit more color and blend that out. I'm going to do the same thing on his head. Kind of shadow on the right side, lay in some color, and then kind of blend that out into his face. And I'm going to also put a little bit of that in on his eye. Okay, I think maybe a little bit more on his face. Okay, blending that out. I'm going to start with that golden yellow color, putting that into my paint, and then going back in and picking it up. So this can dry a little bit. I'm going to start here on his ears, and it would be darker kind of maybe near the base of his head. So put in some color and then blend that out onto his ears. Okay, and then thinking about the exact same thing I did before, lay in some color there on the back part and blending it in to his body, leaving that space in the middle for a highlight. Okay, I'm going to lay in some color on his legs and do the same thing, blend that out. And these do seem to dry a little bit lighter, so I'm not going to worry too much about it looking dark right now. Okay, a little bit there on his face. Blending that out just like before. Okay, I'm going to let that dry a little bit. I'm going to do his little horns. I'm starting with a kind of reddish brown there at the base of his head. Luckily, I'm going to cut him out, so I have to be as careful as I might have to be if I wasn't going to cut him out. I'm going to have to do a little bit more practicing with those little bitty spots. And I'm going in with getting some brown to fill out the rest of the horns. Just want him to be a little bit darker than his body. Okay, something like that. Okay, I think he needs a little bit of pink on his face, and the pink in my watercolors is really pink. So I'm going to just get a little bit of it and mix it in my messy lid. I hate for you guys to even see this. I'm sure I should clean it off, but I just kind of get anxious to move on to other things and don't do it. Okay, so I'm going to mix a little bit of white into my pink, make a lighter color, and then pick a little bit of that up and do his cheeks. those kind of sit there for a second. Okay. And I'm also going to put some of that same pink down his tummy. I don't know why, but it just seems appropriate for a little baby giraffe. And then I also think I'm going to put a little bit under his chin. Kind of gives a little more of a highlight there. Just a little bit more. Okay. I'm going to come in with just a little bit of the off-white again. And just kind of blend everything out. Okay, well, there he is. He is so cute. All right, so that is the little giraffe from the Paper Sweetie set. Let's take a look at the card, and you'll see that I also stamped the sentiment from the Bouncing Baby set, but hiding behind the sentiment stamped in yellow is a border from the Borders stamp set from Paper Sweeties. It's got some really cute borders on it. I really like this set. Also, to finish off the card, there's a little button and some seam binding ribbon. Well, I hope you get a chance to do some watercoloring of your own and also to make one of these flat shakers. Thank you so much for joining me today. You can find me at shushupaperart.com.